You ever trust family enough to sleep under their roof? That's what I thought I was doing, just a simple visit, a night to catch up, laugh about old times. But when the whispers started outside my door and the lights went out on their own, I realized something was wrong. Out there in the dark, surrounded by people I thought I knew, I learned the truth. Sometimes the ones smiling at you are the ones you should fear most. I was tired when I pulled up that long gravel driveway. My cousin Mark had been inviting me out to his family's property for years, always saying, "Man, you need a break from the city. Come out here, breathe some real air." So when work gave me a few extra days, I thought, why not? Pack a bag, grab a couple bottles of wine, maybe catch up on old times. The first thing that hit me was the quiet. Back home in Charlotte, even the suburbs have that constant hum, cars, voices, sirens if you're unlucky. Out here, just whine through the trees and the occasional chirp of something I couldn't name. Their house sat like a postcard, white siding, green shutters, an old porch swing creaking slow. It smelled like pine and earth, sharp and sweet, the kind of clean that almost makes you feel guilty for what you tracked in on your shoes. Mark came out grinning, arms wide, and for a second it felt easy. We hugged, slapped each other on the back. "About time, city boy," he said, leading me inside. His wife, Claire, waved from the kitchen. She was polite, almost warm, but there was this stiffness in her smile, like she wasn't sure whether to hug me or just nod. Their kids peeked at me from behind a doorway, big blue eyes blinking, before vanishing like spooked deer. The house smelled like roasting chicken and something floral. We ate at the big oak table, talked about nothing important, sports, weather, traffic getting worse every year. I laughed when Mark joked about me being soft from city life. He laughed too hard at his own joke, though. Claire didn't laugh at all. After dinner, I helped clear the table, but Claire kept saying, "You're a guest. Sit, relax." Her tone was kind, yet, something about it rubbed wrong. Like she was reminding me of a rule I didn't know I'd broken. When I finally sat, Mark poured bourbon. "One night," he said, clinking his glass against mine. "No phones, no stress. Just like when we were kids." Later, he showed me the guest room upstairs. Cozy enough, quilted bedspread, old dresser, window looking out at a sea of black trees. When he left, I sat on the edge of the bed, listening to the house settle, wood groaning softly like something breathing slow. I turned off the lamp, slid under the covers. It was maybe an hour later when I woke up. I don't know why, no sound, no dream, just that feeling like someone's watching you. The air felt heavier. I listened. The house was quiet, too quiet. Then I saw it, the faint sliver of light under my door. Soft, but shifting. Like someone moving in the hallway. I told myself it was nothing. Old houses creak, people get up for water. Still, my heart beat faster as the light lingered. I held my breath, waiting for footsteps. None came. The glow finally dimmed, then vanished. I exhaled slow, tried to laugh at myself, and eventually drifted back to sleep. When I woke again, it was to the sound of whispering. Low, hushed voices, just outside my door. I froze. Couldn't make out words, only the tone, urgent, like they didn't want to wake me but couldn't help themselves. The voices stopped. Silence. Then the faintest click, like a camera shutter or a phone taking a picture. My throat went dry. I wanted to open the door, demand what the hell was going on. But I didn't move. Because something told me, deep down, that if I opened that door, things would get worse. I didn't sleep after that. Just lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, feeling every breath like it was too loud. My phone was on the nightstand, but when I reached for it, my hand froze. Something about pulling out a phone in this house felt wrong. Like it would set something in motion I couldn't stop. Around 3 a.m., I heard the floorboards creak again. Slow, deliberate steps, pausing between each one. Whoever it was didn't come to the door this time. They just lingered. Long enough for my chest to ache from holding air in. Then, nothing. Silence, so thick it pressed on my ears. When morning finally came, I almost convinced myself it was nothing. Just a weird night, my nerves playing tricks on me. Downstairs, Claire was at the stove, flipping pancakes, her voice sing-song sweet when she said, "Sleep well?" Mark grinned at me over his coffee. I said, "Yeah, because what else could I say?" They watched me a second too long, like they were waiting for something. Then the moment passed, and Mark started talking about fishing. I ate fast, told them I might take a walk before lunch. Needed air, space to think. Outside, the sunlight hit hard, making the woods look almost inviting. But even out there, I couldn't shake it, the sense that someone was watching. Every time I turned, nothing. Just trees, wind whispering through the leaves. When I came back, Mark was on the porch. "You good?" he asked, leaning on the railing, his smile tight this time. I nodded. "Yeah. Just tired." He stared a beat too long before clapping my shoulder. "Good to have you here, man." The rest of the day crawled. They were polite, even cheerful, but underneath it was this current I couldn't name. Little things. The way Claire kept locking the back door every time I stepped out. The way their oldest kid peeked at me from the hallway and darted away like I'd done something wrong. By evening, my stomach was tight with dread, though I couldn't have told you why. That night, I checked the guest room twice, window locked, door latch working. I left the lamp on, sat on the edge of the bed scrolling through nothing on my phone. At some point, I must have dozed off, because the next thing I knew, the lamp was off. I didn't turn it off. My pulse spiked so hard I thought I might faint. The room was pitch black, except for a pale strip of moonlight cutting across the floor. I stayed perfectly still, eyes straining. Then I heard it, breathing. Not mine. Slow, measured, in the dark. I whispered, "Mark?" My voice cracked. No answer. The breathing stopped. I reached for the nightstand, fingers fumbling for my phone. Gone. My hand swept the wood, empty. That's when I saw it, a shadow shifting near the dresser. Tall. Still. Watching. My throat locked. I forced myself to stand, legs trembling so bad the floor creaked. The shadow didn't move. For a second, I thought maybe it was a coat, something hanging. But then it turned. Not fast, slow, deliberate. And I swear I heard a smile in the dark, like teeth clicking softly. I didn't wait. I bolted for the door, yanked it open. The hallway was dim, but not empty. Two figures stood at the far end. Claire and Mark. Side by side. Just standing. Their faces lost in shadow, but their bodies angled toward me like they'd been waiting. "Where you going?" Mark's voice was calm. Too calm. I froze. My heart pounded so loud it drowned everything else. Then I ran the other way, past them, down the stairs, hitting each step like a gunshot. I didn't grab my bag. Didn't look back. Just the front door, my hands slick on the knob, and then the cold night swallowing me as I sprinted down that long gravel drive, stones biting through my socks. Behind me, the porch light flicked on. Bright. Blinding. And in that split second before the trees swallowed the view, I saw them, 3 silhouettes now, standing on the porch, still and silent. Watching me run. They thought they were doing the right thing, offering a stranger a warm meal and a couch for the night. But when that stranger started walking their halls and tearing pieces of their life apart, kindness turned into quiet terror. Sometimes, the scariest people don't break in. Sometimes, you invite them inside. It was my wife's idea to invite her. Said it would be a good thing, a small act of kindness. The woman's name was Dana, thin, pale, hair like brittle straw tucked under a faded ball cap. We met her at the gas station a few miles out, sitting on the curb next to a duffel bag that looked older than her. My wife handed her a bottle of water, asked if she needed help. Dana said she was headed north but had nowhere to sleep that night. I remember the way her voice cracked when she said it, like she'd been talking to no one for days. I didn't want to. I really didn't. It's not like I'm cold-hearted, but it was late, and I had my kids to think about. Our little house wasn't much, 2 bedrooms, thin walls, a couch that groaned if you looked at it wrong. Still, my wife gave me that look. The one that says, "This is who we are. We help when we can." So I swallowed my hesitation and told Dana she could stay the night. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. That was the first thing I noticed up close. Her eyes were pale blue, almost cloudy, and when they landed on me, it felt like they skimmed right past the surface, like I wasn't really there. On the drive back, she barely spoke. Just kept staring out the window at the dark fields rolling by, her fingers drumming against her knee in this restless, jittery rhythm. I tried small talk. Asked where she was from. She said, "Down south," without looking at me. My wife jumped in, tried to fill the silence, but Dana didn't bite. When we got home, my kids, Maya and Jordan, were still awake, sprawled on the living room floor with their coloring books. They looked up when we walked in, wide-eyed and quiet. I introduced Dana, told them she'd be staying for the night. Maya smiled shyly, but Jordan frowned like he felt something I didn't. Dinner was leftovers, rice and beans, cornbread, a little chicken. We offered Dana a plate. She took it without thanks, sat at the table like it was her table. Ate slow, chewing each bite like she was thinking hard about something. Every so often, her eyes flicked around the room, lingering on the photos on the wall, graduation pictures, family portraits, my grandmother's quilt hanging above the couch. Her mouth twitched when she looked at those. Afterward, we set up the couch for her. My wife gave her a pillow and blanket, said goodnight, and took the kids to bed. I stayed behind, checking locks, turning off lights. Dana sat cross-legged on the couch, scrolling through a cracked phone with no case. When I said goodnight, she just nodded, lips pressed tight. I tried to sleep, but something about the house felt different. Too still. I kept thinking about those eyes, how cold they looked when they slid over our family photos. Around midnight, I heard movement, soft steps on the floorboards, a low creak of the couch springs. I told myself she was getting water. Nothing to worry about. But then came the sound of a drawer sliding open. Slow. Careful. From the kitchen. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, heart thudding. We didn't have much worth stealing, but that wasn't what scared me. What scared me was the way I'd felt her looking earlier, like we were something she didn't quite approve of. Like charity wasn't what she wanted from us. When I finally got up, the house was dark, except for the faint glow from the kitchen. I stepped into the hallway, barefoot, holding my breath. And there she was. Standing at the counter. Not getting water. Not eating. Just holding one of our family photos in her hand. The one from Maya's 5th birthday, the kids grinning, cake smeared on their cheeks. She didn't even flinch when she saw me. Just looked at me with those pale eyes and said, real soft. "Nice little life you got here." I stood there in the doorway, the night pressing in like heavy cloth, and I swear my breath sounded louder than the hum of the fridge. Dana held that picture like it was fragile. Her thumb dragging slow across my daughter's face. She didn't look angry, didn't look sad. Just calm, too calm. "You should put that down," I said. My voice came out tight, smaller than I meant. She didn't move. "Pretty little girl," she murmured, eyes still on the photo. Both of Mr. Then she finally looked at me, and there was a curl at the corner of her mouth that wasn't a smile. "You must be real proud." Something in my stomach turned. "It's late," I said, forcing my voice to steady. "You should get some rest." She set the photo down slow, deliberate, like she wanted me to see how gentle she could be. Then she stepped closer. Her bare feet were silent on the linoleum, but every inch felt loud in my chest. "You ever think about how lucky you are?" she asked. Her voice was soft, but it cut. "Sittin' up here with your wife, your kids, your house." Her eyes flicked around like she was memorizing everything, the chipped counters, the old clock, even the laundry basket in the corner. "Bet you think you've got it all figured out." I didn't know what to say. Every word I thought of felt wrong. Dangerous. Dana leaned against the counter, arms folded now, her head tilting like she was studying me under a microscope. "People like me, we don't get chances like this," she said. "People like you," she let it hang, let the weight of it settle in the space between us. Then, real quiet, "You act like you earned it." I felt heat rise in my face, not from shame but from something else, something darker. But before I could speak, there was a sound from the hallway. Small feet on the floorboards. Maya's voice, sleepy, calling, "Daddy?" My heart clenched. I turned, saw her little silhouette at the end of the hall in her pink pajamas, rubbing her eyes. When I looked back, Dana was already smiling. Wide now. Almost glowing in the dim light. "Go on," she whispered. "Take care of your girl." I moved fast, scooped Maya up, murmured that everything was fine. Her small arms looped around my neck, her warm breath against my skin grounding me in a way I desperately needed. I carried her back to bed, tucked her in, waited until her breathing slowed. When I stepped back into the hall, Dana was gone. The living room was dark, the couch empty. For one breathless second, I thought she'd left. Relief started to bloom, until I heard it. A sound like fabric tearing. From my bedroom. I ran. My wife was sitting up in bed, her face pale, her voice trembling when she said, she was just here. She stood right there. I didn't wait for more. I tore through the house, every shadow alive, until I found her in the kitchen again. But this time, she wasn't holding a photo. She was at the table, and in front of her lay pieces of something, our quilt. My grandmother's quilt. Ripped into strips like paper. "Thought I'd make it even," she said, voice calm, eyes burning cold. "Can't have some folks sittin' pretty while others freeze." My hands shook so bad I couldn't even speak. Dana stood, brushed past me like I wasn't even there, and walked to the front door. Opened it slow, like she owned the hinges. Before she stepped out into the night, she turned back once, her teeth flashing in the dark. "Nice little life," she said. "Try and keep it." Then she was gone, swallowed by the black. I locked every door, every window, checked them twice, but it didn't matter. The house didn't feel like ours anymore. The walls felt thinner. The night outside thicker. And when I lay back in bed, listening to the distant hum of the road, I couldn't stop hearing her voice, low and steady, cutting through the dark. "People like you." She thought a weekend with a friend would bring peace and safety. But when the locks didn't matter and the darkness filled with silent footsteps, every shadow became a threat. Sometimes the real horror isn't in a stranger's eyes, it's in the eyes of someone you trust. It was supposed to be a simple favor. A weekend away from the city, a quiet house where I could clear my head. My friend Erica had offered me her guest room months ago, said, "Come by any time. You need a break from that noise." And Lord, did I need one. The office had been hell, and the stares from neighbors in my building felt heavier every day. So Friday after work, I packed a small bag, grabbed some snacks for the drive, and headed toward the edge of town. Erica's place sat just past the highway, a neighborhood too new for trees to feel settled, every house standing in sharp rows like soldiers. When I pulled up, the sky was already deep purple, the air thick with that summer smell, warm asphalt and faint honeysuckle. Her porch light flicked on as I parked, and she came out smiling, arms wide like always. "Girl, you made it," she said, pulling me into a hug that smelled like lavender lotion. Inside, the house was neat and bright, all soft beige and white furniture. The kind of space that makes you sit up straighter, afraid to leave a wrinkle on the couch. She poured wine, gave me a tour, then led me upstairs to the guest room. It was small but sweet, a quilt folded at the foot of the bed, a candle on the dresser that smelled faintly of vanilla. "Make yourself at home," she said, pressing the key into my hand. "Just us girls. No stress." We ate takeout and talked about everything, old coworkers, messy breakups, the way people still look at you sideways if you walk into the wrong store. I told her about the man who'd followed me through the parking garage last week, how his footsteps matched mine all the way to my car. She shook her head, muttered, "People are bold these days." Her tone was casual, but her eyes, they darted, quick, toward the window, then back to me. By midnight, I was tired. She showed me where extra towels were, hugged me again, and disappeared into her room down the hall. I locked my door, habit, always, and slid under the covers. For a while, I listened to the house hum, the soft whir of the AC, the distant tick of a clock somewhere. Peaceful. Safe. I must have drifted, because the next thing I knew, I was awake again. The room was dark except for a slice of moonlight across the carpet. My throat was dry, so I reached for my water bottle, then froze. The door was open. Not wide, just enough to show the hallway beyond, dim and empty. I know I locked it. I know I did. My pulse hammered as I sat up, scanning the shadows. Everything looked the same, but the air felt different, heavy, like the house was holding its breath. I told myself it was nothing. Maybe I didn't turn the latch all the way. Maybe Erica checked in and forgot to close it. Still, I got up, shut the door, and turned the lock until I heard that soft, solid click. Climbed back into bed, phone in hand, light from the screen painting the walls blue. I tried to scroll, distract myself, but every creak from the house made me jump. Then came the sound. Soft. Slow. Like skin brushing against wood. From the other side of the door. I held my breath, staring at that thin strip of light at the bottom. A shadow slid across it, long, narrow, like someone standing there, waiting. I didn't move. Didn't blink. My heart slammed so loud I swore she could hear it. The shadow stayed, lingering, then, gone. No footsteps. Just silence thick enough to choke on. I didn't sleep after that. Just sat there in the dark, phone clutched tight, thumb hovering over the screen like I might call someone. But who? The police? What would I even say? My friend is standing outside my door. That thought alone made me feel foolish, paranoid. So I stayed still, counting each shaky breath until my pulse slowed. Eventually, the silence grew heavy again. No footsteps. No shadows. I told myself I was imagining things, that maybe it was the air vent making weird patterns of light. By 3 a.m., exhaustion finally dragged me under. When I woke, sunlight was spilling through the blinds, soft and warm like nothing had happened. Erica was in the kitchen, humming to herself, flipping pancakes. She looked up with that easy smile. "Morning, stranger. Sleep okay?" Yeah, I lied, my throat tight. I didn't want to sound crazy. Didn't want to seem ungrateful. Over breakfast, she talked like nothing was wrong. Asked if I wanted to hit the farmer's market, maybe take a walk by the lake. I nodded, forced a smile, all while replaying last night in my head. The open door. The shadow. That sound like fingertips dragging slow across wood. When we got back that afternoon, something shifted. I noticed it when I set my bag on the bed. My phone charger was gone. I swore I'd left it coiled on the nightstand, but the table was bare. I searched the floor, under the bed. Nothing. My stomach knotted. That evening, after dinner, I tried to shake it off. Watched TV with her, laughed at old jokes, but the whole time I felt her eyes on me, too often, too long. When I said I was turning in early, she tilted her head, smiling just a little too wide. "Sure thing," she said. "Get some rest." Upstairs, the guest room felt smaller. The candle on the dresser was gone too. Just gone. I locked the door again, twice this time, then sat on the edge of the bed, fully dressed, heart pounding like a drum. Hours passed. I don't know when I dozed off, but the sound woke me again. The click of metal. The door latch turning. My body froze. The lock slid back with a soft scrape. The door eased open. I held my breath as a shape filled the frame, tall, still. Erica. She didn't speak, didn't move, just stood there, her face a pale blur in the dark. Then, slowly, she stepped inside and closed the door behind her with a quiet click. "Why'd you lock it?" Her voice was soft, almost curious, like she wasn't asking for an answer. I tried to speak, but nothing came out. She came closer, bare feet whispering against the carpet, and for the first time I saw what she was holding, a strip of fabric. My scarf. Twisted tight in her hands. "You looked so peaceful," she murmured, eyes glinting in the thin moonlight. "Didn't want to wake you last time." Last time. The words sank like ice through my spine. I didn't wait to hear more. I lunged for the door, shoved past her, heart slamming so hard it drowned everything else. I tore down the stairs, grabbed my keys from the counter, and ran barefoot into the night. Gravel cut my feet as I sprinted to my car, hands shaking so bad it took 3 tries to jam the key into the ignition. When I glanced back, the porch light flicked on. Erica stood there, calm as ever, the scarf dangling from her fingers. Just watching. I drove until the sky bled pale with dawn, every muscle trembling, the image of her face burned into my mind. That look, soft, patient, like she'd been waiting for something only she understood. And the worst part? I still don't know what. She thought staying overnight in the hospital would be simple, just watching over a loved one, nothing more. But when the lights went out and whispers filled the room, the sterile halls became a trap. Some places aren't meant for rest, and sometimes the danger isn't outside the door, it's already inside. Hospitals have always unsettled me. Too white, too bright, too quiet in a way that doesn't feel clean, just hollow. But that night, I didn't have a choice. My cousin Tasha had been in a car accident, and the family was spread thin. So when her mother called, voice trembling, asking if I could stay overnight with her at the hospital, I said yes. Packed a hoodie, some snacks, and drove across town to St. Margaret's. It was close to midnight when I walked through the sliding glass doors. The air inside hit cold, smelling like bleach and something faintly metallic. A nurse at the desk nodded, barely looking at me as I signed in. The hall stretched long and pale under fluorescent lights, each step echoing like I didn't belong there. Tasha was on the 5th floor, orthopedics. When I reached her room, she was propped up in bed, leg in a cast, smile weak but real. "Girl, you didn't have to," she said, her voice a whisper. I hugged her gently, felt the thinness of her body through the blanket. "Course I did," I told her. "You'd do the same." The first hour was easy. We talked, laughed a little, watched some late-night game show on the tiny TV. At 2 a.m., her meds kicked in hard, and she drifted off mid-sentence. I turned the volume down, slid into the chair by the bed, and tried to get comfortable. That's when I noticed the sound. Not loud, just wrong. A soft, deliberate shuffle in the hallway. Slow steps, pausing between each one. I glanced at the door. Nothing. Probably a nurse making rounds, I told myself. Still, the hairs on my arms prickled. Minutes later, it happened again. Shuffle. Pause. Shuffle. Closer this time. I stood, eased to the doorway, and peeked out. The hall was empty. Just that long strip of flickering light and rows of doors like closed mouths. I went back in, locked the door, not sure why, just felt like I needed to. Sat down again, heart thudding too loud for the silence. I told myself to scroll my phone, stay awake, but my eyelids got heavy. At some point, I drifted. When I woke, the lights were out. Not dim. Out. The only glow came from machines beeping slow and steady, green lines pulsing on black screens. My throat tightened as I sat up, eyes straining against the dark. I could barely make out Tasha's outline in the bed, her breath shallow, lips parted in sleep. Then I heard it again. That shuffle. Inside the room this time. My breath caught. I turned my head slow, every muscle stiff. Something moved in the corner, a shape darker than the dark around it. Tall. Still. Hello? My voice cracked, too loud in the quiet. The shape didn't answer. Didn't move. Just stood there, close to the curtain. Then it whispered. Low. Drawn out. Words I couldn't catch, just the sound of them slithering through the dark. I froze. My fingers itched for the call button, but I couldn't move. Couldn't blink. And then, just as slow as it came, the whisper stopped. The shadow slipped behind the curtain, gone like smoke. I sat there shaking, my skin crawling with the weight of something I couldn't name. My hand finally found the call button, pressing it so hard my thumb hurt. When the nurse came in, flipping the lights back on, the room was empty. Just me, Tasha asleep, and the hollow quiet of a hospital that suddenly didn't feel like a place for healing anymore. The nurse gave me a quick look when the lights came back on, like I'd interrupted something important. She was tall, pale, her hair pulled so tight it looked painful. You pressed the call button? She asked. Her voice was calm, but her eyes lingered on me a little too long, like she was waiting for an answer I couldn't give. I opened my mouth, hesitated. What was I supposed to say? I saw a shadow whispering in the dark. Instead, I muttered, the lights went out. She glanced at the overheads, humming like it was nothing. Breaker trip sometimes on this floor, she said. Then, after a pause, you should rest. She didn't wait for a response before leaving, closing the door with a click that sounded louder than it should have. Tasha stirred when the door shut, her cast shifting under the blanket. You okay? She mumbled, voice thick with sleep. Yeah, I whispered, forcing a smile she couldn't see. Go back to sleep. She did, easy as breathing. I wished I could follow. I stayed awake after that. Couldn't risk closing my eyes. Every hum of the machines, every tick of the clock scraped against my nerves. I told myself the dark shape was nothing, a trick of my half-asleep brain. But then I saw something that made my stomach drop. The curtain. The one dividing the bed from the chair. It was swaying. Slow, like a breeze touched it. Except the window was shut. The AC was off. I gripped the arms of the chair, nails digging into worn vinyl. My throat went dry as the sway stopped. The silence after felt heavier than the dark had. I don't know how long I sat there before the door opened again. Another nurse this time, or maybe the same one, I couldn't tell. Her scrubs were navy, her face calm in a way that made me feel small. Vitals check, she said softly, moving toward Tasha's bed. But something in her tone, it wasn't polite. It was practiced. like lines read from a script. She glanced at me once as she reached for the monitor. "Your family, right?" she asked, voice light, eyes sharp. "Yes," I said, barely above a whisper. She smiled then. "Small. Tight. Good," she said. "Family's important." Her hands moved quick, checking numbers, jotting notes. Then she turned without another word and left. The door closed, and the silence rushed back in like water flooding a room. That's when I saw the phone. My phone. It had been on the nightstand when I dozed off. Now it was on the floor near the curtain. Face down, screen dark. I bent to grab it, heart pounding, and noticed something under it, a scrap of paper, folded twice. I unfolded it slow, fingers trembling. 3 words. "Don't fall asleep." My stomach turned to ice. I looked at the door, at Tasha breathing slow and even, at the shadow pooling under the bed like spilled ink. My pulse slammed so loud it drowned the steady beep of the monitor. I sat back in the chair, the note clenched in my hand, and waited. Hours crawled like years. Every sound, footsteps in the hall, wheels of a cart, soft voices behind doors, felt like it was inching closer to this room. When dawn finally bled through the blinds, pale and cold, the relief didn't come. Because when I glanced at the curtain, I saw it again. That same slow sway. And behind it, the faint outline of someone standing. Thanks so much for watching. Your support truly means the world to me. Every like, every comment helps this channel grow and keeps me going. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that like button and share your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a new upload. My dream right now is to reach 100 subscribers, and with your help, I know it's possible. See you in the next one.